So-called fake news can have real-world consequences.
What Americans want to read, I will write.
So this is an arms race. I mean, they're going to keep on getting better at this, and we need to invest in keeping on getting better at this too.
Many of my students actually helped the American president win the elections.
How much responsibility does Facebook have for the content on the platform?
So Facebook knew that this was happening, and you're saying they were profiting.
I'm Ahmed Shahabuddin, and this is a story about fake news and the people profiting from it. In the 3 months leading up to the 2016 US election, viral fake news stories generated more total engagement on Facebook than those from the top 19 major news outlets combined. Some of these fake stories came from an unlikely place, the Republic of North Macedonia, a country of about 2 million people just north of Greece.
There's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
We found a lot of different accounts coming from Macedonia.
Hundreds of pro-Trump websites popped up all over the country, and teenagers, particularly in one former factory town, purportedly made millions by duping American news consumers on social media sites like Facebook. I came to Macedonia to find out what the fake news industry here is like amid a tech industry crackdown and reports that trolls are already preparing to cash in on the next US elections.
I was telling you about our informal title, to Macedonia, the land of the fake.
Sashka Svetkovska is an investigative journalist in Skopje, Macedonia's capital. She says it's not a coincidence that Macedonia has become one of the world's fake news hubs. It has a young, tech-savvy population, an unemployment rate of over 20%, and the recently ousted government regularly blasted fake news through state-run media.
We somehow managed to create quite good people that work in IT, can be anywhere in the world, and you can get a very high-skilled people.
She's investigating who's funding the fake news factories in the country.
It's really hard to trace this. I think it's a lot of people in many governments, in many powerful centers, corporations too.
At the center of Macedonia's fake news industry is a man named Mirko Seselkoski. He calls himself an internet marketing consultant and Facebook strategist, though he's been referred to as a clickbait coach. He says he's taught over 1,000 young people here how to make content for an American audience.
You refer to yourself as the man who accidentally helped Donald Trump win the US election.
Many of my students actually helped, I think they helped the American president win the elections, maybe with a small push of information from our side.
Mirko started making money on the internet in the early 2000s by writing stories about yachts and muscle cars. He insists it was purely by accident that his students stumbled upon the money pot that is US partisan politics. Here's how this works. Create a simple website through a site like WordPress. Choose a domain name that sounds like a mainstream American news organization. Copy and paste stories from alt-right sites like Breitbart and InfoWars. Then create or buy Facebook profiles, pages, and likes. When readers click through from Facebook to the websites, they're hit with dozens of ads. With each click, the ad revenue begins pouring in through automated advertising engines like Google AdSense. The secret ingredients for a viral hit.
Explosive title, shocking image.
Did your students know much about the US or US politics before they started writing these stories?
No. When the money started to come, they hired some students here at the university. The most successful students even hired US students.
From America?
From America, yes.
Mirko says his students often hire freelance writers in the United States through websites like Upwork.
During the elections and the year before the elections and several months after the elections, I had students with a revenue of north of 100,000 per month, US dollars.
That's a lot of money.
Especially in Macedonia.
Do you feel that there's a moral or ethical concern to be making money off of convincing millions of Americans that something is real that can then affect how they vote?
Yeah, it's not moral, it's not ethical, definitely, but it's not illegal here in Macedonia.
Facebook's crackdown on fake news has been bad for business here.
In 2020, for example,
Yeah.
there's another huge election.
Yeah.
You think there will be people doing the same thing?
There are some different methods we teach now, and you need to invest a lot more.
After meeting Mirko, I traveled to a small town that has become the epicenter of the fake news industry here.
I'm here in Veles, Macedonia, a former factory town where young people, if they're lucky to have a job at all, rarely earn over 300 euros a month, but where fake news factories are now making some of them very rich.
I'm on my way to meet a young man named Boris, who's learned from Mirko's methods and works in a content factory along with 20 others. We weren't invited inside. Instead, he agreed to meet me at an internet cafe. Boris has asked that we conceal his identity because he's afraid of legal action from the US. He didn't want to share just how much money he's made, worried it might reveal his identity.
Generally, you work at night, right?
If you want to reach more audience, you will work the same time zone that United States have. If you're answering and you will start the debate at the same moment and everyone will start commenting, it's more interesting and you will get more fans, more likes, everything.
But what do you think about these Americans who are reading all this fake news, the stuff you were publishing?
If Americans likes wine, we give wine. If Americans likes water, we give water. What American wants to read, I will write.
And how did you know what Americans
You will test it.
What Boris told me next caught me by surprise.
Facebook is a social media network that allows these stories to go so viral.
So Facebook knew that this was happening.
2 weeks before the election, if you write Donald Trump, you will see 0.04 cents per like. If you write Hillary Clinton, it will be 20 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents. That's the moment when Facebook decides to go Donald Trump viral.
Boris is saying that in the days before the election, the price for promoting content that was pro-Trump on the pages he was managing dropped significantly. So he went all in to heavily promote Trump.
What are your plans in the next election?
Maybe in 2020, I will think about it. I will not answer this question.
My time in Macedonia left me with a lot of questions, so I returned to the US in search of answers.
We came here to Facebook's headquarters to find out what went wrong in the 2016 elections and what their plans are to protect the integrity of future elections in the US and abroad.
Monica Bickert is head of content policy at Facebook.
Well, this is definitely an area where we've made mistakes and where we're investing a lot in getting better. So if you look back to 2016, for instance, our tools that identify fake accounts weren't as good then as they are now.
We've come across a lot of accounts that are Macedonian and Russian accounts that seem dubious to us throughout the reporting process, but they're still active.
Well, we won't always be perfect, but I can tell you it's absolutely a priority to proactively find and remove those types of accounts.
In the lead up to the French and German elections in 2017, Facebook removed tens of thousands of fake accounts. But the company announced recently that there may be as many as 87 million fake accounts still on the platform. Facebook is hiring thousands of people to review content, developing artificial intelligence to detect fake news and accounts, and trying to contextualize articles that have been flagged as potential fakes so users can decide for themselves.
What would you say to American Facebook users who are concerned about fake news and how it might influence the midterm elections?
Facebook certainly has a role to play in removing inauthentic actors, fake accounts, people who are intentionally sharing disinformation to sow discord. At the same time, there's also more that we can be doing as a society to identify when something is likely fake.
I asked her about Boris's allegations that Facebook was profiting off of content like his.
And he claims that Facebook knew, whether it was an algorithm's decision or a human's, that the price was all of a sudden dramatically cheaper to promote Trump content.
Well, for advertising prices, I'd have to follow up with you on exactly how we set those.
But we didn't receive an explanation on the record from the company, despite repeated attempts to obtain one. Former Facebook employee Antonio Garcia Martinez has his own take on Boris's claims. He was a product manager who helped develop the platform's advertising side and left the company in 2013. What do you make of that? Because it can be coincidence, but that's what made
it may not be. It may not be. If you employ a certain inflammatory rhetoric that gets people engaged with your thing, then your net media cost will be lower. That is how Facebook is designed to work.
But it's kind of problematic.
Right. They didn't come up with this. Google does the same thing. But yeah, it is. In this context, I think you're right that maybe it is problematic.
It seems like everyone benefited that was in that game.
That's right. That's right. As did the Trump campaign.
Antonio is critical of the company's early attempts to minimize the fake news problem.
You know, personally, I think the idea that fake news on Facebook influenced the election in any way, I think, is a pretty crazy idea.
To discard the possibility that Facebook could actually swing the election so quickly is obviously really disingenuous and frankly not true.
Why?
So literally until like 72 hours before the election, there was a huge political ad sales force, which Facebook has, telling every politician with a marketing budget exactly the opposite, that Facebook can deliver them the election.
Antonio says that the reason this matters comes down to a simple but fundamental question.
How much responsibility does Facebook have for the content on the platform? That really is the big question.
So how does the company fix this problem?
$1 trillion question. I don't know, and I don't think Facebook knows the answer to it either.
In his recent Senate hearing, Mark Zuckerberg addressed the challenge of staying ahead of fake news before it impacts future elections.
So this is an arms race. I mean, they're going to keep on getting better at this, and we need to invest in keeping on getting better at this too.
What will happen in 2020? Other countries maybe will want to make big money. 10 countries, more countries, will start the same thing.
Hey, it's Ahmed. So as you just saw, some fake news producers are financially motivated, but others have political ends in sight. So be sure to check out this video. We did an interview with an investigative journalist in Russia who went undercover in a troll farm.